Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Saturday, September the 13th. And welcome to our commentary. I hope you're having a good weekend and watching a lot of football. I know Notre Dame and Texas A&M is playing tonight, Saturday night, so I intend to watch that game after I do this little video. And congratulations to the Texas Rangers who just keep on winning. They have now won 16 out of their last 20 games, and they have forced themselves into the American League West pennant race. They're only a game and a half behind Houston. So, with roughly 14 games to go, it's going to be very exciting going down the stretch here for those of us baseball fans. So, good news for the Texas Rangers. And good luck tonight to the Aggies as they play Notre Dame. It should be a very tough game for the Aggies, but it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Well, this was to say the least, a pretty remarkable week, in kind of a negative way, I guess. We were talking about this young woman in North Carolina. We began the week talking about the young woman in North Carolina. You know, you've all heard that story of the young woman in the train and the terrible thing that happened to her. And we ended the week, of course, with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, another horrible, horrible thing. And it was just absolutely horrible to go through all of this, and then to see some of the reactions of people. I guess to be fair, most people are, their reaction was negative, obviously, to the shooting of a young man like Charlie Kirk. Whether you like him or not, nobody wants to see a person get killed like this and leave a young widow and a couple of kids. But unfortunately, there were some who I guess were happy to see this happen, which is really makes you wonder, what kind of people they are. I mean, how can you be happy to see something like this happen? But anyway, we ended the week with an amazing eulogy by a young widow, Erika Kirk. It happened on Friday night. And if you have not seen it, it's about 15 minutes long, and you should be able to pick it up on the internet. It's available in many different places. I know YouTube has it. I saw it live. I had a chance to watch it live. It is just absolutely stunning to listen to this young woman, a young widow, who just 24 hours ago, her husband was assassinated. And now she's got a 3-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy that she's going to have to raise by herself. I mean, just think about that. Think about the burden that she now faces. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to have to go through what she's going to go through. I guess the good news is that she's going to have tremendous support, not just moral but financial. Uh, there are some professional athletes who've already offered money to guarantee to pay for their kids' education and that thing. So that's the good of the country showing up. And I think for the most part, the reaction of most people has been sympathetic to her situation. But she delivered an absolutely amazing speech where she spoke a little bit about her husband's mission and how she's going to support it and how she's confident that it's going to go on. And I am too. I actually think that Charlie's mission is going to go on, and it's probably going to get a lot stronger because it was growing in the universities and he was touching a lot of university students. And I was watching an analysis today of the impact that many of these young people had voting for Trump in 2024. And it's very likely that they're the reason that Trump won the election or that Trump won the popular vote. Now, there are other things too, of course, in the election: immigration, the economy, all of those were factors too. But many young people, enough of them, I should say, voted for Donald Trump in 2024. And that's because of the work of Charlie Kirk in these universities. So he was not only a speaker, a radio host, but he was a political machine in going out to these universities and talking to people and persuading them that they should vote conservative in the election. So Charlie Kirk was really one of those things that you don't see very often. And who's going to replace him? I don't know specifically who is actually going to go out there and talk to the kids. I don't know. Uh, Maybe Erika will do it. I don't know. She would be good at it, but she also has a couple of kids to raise. But somebody will. I'm sure somebody will step up. He has lots of disciples, and the message will go on. But I have to tell you that eulogy by Erika Kirk the other night was one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like that before. The last time that I was moved by a eulogy like that was when the first President Bush passed away in 2018. Now, he died of old age, of course. Uh, he was like 96 or something when he passed away. And his son, George W. Bush, the president, delivered a eulogy. So a president remembered another president in in a eulogy there in a presidential funeral. And I don't think we've ever seen that before. Maybe John Quincy Adams delivered a eulogy for his father, John Adams. I don't know. I don't know if that happened, but I don't believe he was president at the time. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But that's the only other time that that could have happened. And I was very moved by George W. Bush and the way he spoke about his father, the president, who was also a father, as he said, and a dad, and somebody he would play catch with when he was younger. So that was a very moving eulogy. I remember that one. And this one by Erika Kirk, I guess not technically a eulogy because it wasn't at the funeral. I guess that would be different. But without question, very moving. And everybody should watch it because I think you're going to have a much stronger appreciation of this young woman, now a young widow who is going to have to raise these two kids. So I think you're going to appreciate more and more who she is and what a great relationship Charlie and Erika must have had. I mean, it had to be a great partnership just by the way she spoke about it. So if you can watch that eulogy or those words delivered by Erika Kirk, I think you'll be very moved. Another thing, too, that I thought was pretty remarkable was when Vice President Vance and his wife went to pick up the casket and bring it to Arizona, and they were coming down, the stairs at the airplane or the steps, and Usha Vance was holding hands with Erika and, supporting her. I thought that was very classy on the part of Usha Vance, our second lady. So I just thought it was a moment of class that was very important to watch, to say the least. But then, of course, during the week following the assassination, we unfortunately had some very nasty reactions. Some people who thought that it was important, I guess, to say nasty things about Charlie Kirk, and to even some people going as far as being happy or cheering that he had been killed. I don't know how people like that live. I don't know what kind of world they live in. But, if you're happy that a young 31-year-old man was assassinated, a father of two who's going to leave a young widow behind, if that makes you happy, well, I guess you and I have nothing in common. That's all I can say, because there's nothing nice about somebody getting killed. I don't care what the political ideology is. I mean, it's just horrible. It's absolutely horrible to have people say some of the things. And unfortunately, a lot of it is social media, because you can now say things in social media that you couldn't before. You can also hide behind social media. You don't always have to say who you are. And very often you're using an anonymous name or even picture to talk about your feelings. So I think social media to some extent contributes to this, because it allows a lot of people to say very ugly things without having to take ownership of it. So that, I think, contributes to much of this nastiness that we're seeing in the country right now. But I do believe overall, I think most of the country reacted with horror and shock to see this assassination. And I think that most Americans are good people who are going to reflect on this, and maybe both sides will finally realize that we got to lower the volume a little bit. We got to lower the volume, because this kind of partisan bitterness cannot go on. It doesn't do anybody any good when this kind of partisan bitterness is going on. Just a quick mention. In my last video, we spoke with George Rodriguez, and we spoke about the upcoming primary in Texas, which is next March, by the way. There's still a lot of time, but there's going to be a very competitive, or two actually, very competitive primaries for the U.S. Senate in both parties. And some polling came out. On the Republican side, it's a dead heat between current Senator Cornyn and current Attorney General Paxton. So it's a dead heat right now. And in fact, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's not only a dead heat, but it's 1/3 Cornyn, 1/3 Paxton, and 1/3 not sure or undecided. So what that tells me is that there's going to be some movement probably as we get closer to the primaries to one candidate or the other. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There's lots of time left. So the fact that there are that many people undecided tells you a great deal about how the Texas, at least the Republicans in Texas, feel about this primary. On the Democrat side, it's a little bit interesting. On the Democrat side, Beto O'Rourke is actually number one. Jasmine Crockett, the congresswoman from Dallas, is number two. And then Colin Allred, who ran in 2024, is number three. And James Talarico is number four. He's the new face in the race. The interesting thing about that primary poll is that O'Rourke and Crockett have not announced, and yet they're number one and number two in at least that poll that was taken, and that came out, I believe, through the Texas Tribune. So, I don't know. The Democrat primary right now, it's all completely up in the air, and we'll see. We'll see what all of it develops. Nothing much is going to happen probably until the first of the year, come January. I think in January you'll see the campaigning, and you'll see the advertising, and you'll start seeing some debates. And probably those debates are going to have an impact on what happens on primary night. But I do predict that both sides will probably have to go to a runoff. The Democrats for sure will go to a runoff. I think less likely the Republicans, but I would say it's about 50% chance that the Republicans have to go to a runoff. I would say almost 90% chance that the Democrats have to go to a second round or a runoff. And it's going to be very divisive on both sides because there's a lot of candidates who have a lot to say. And both parties, particularly the Democrats, more the Democrats than the Republicans, are fighting for an identity in Texas. The Democrats are really fighting for an identity because right now they're too far to the left to win in Texas. And they have to move the party to the center if they want to compete. On the Republican side, it's not so much a question of identity as it is, who do you want to hitch your wagon to? The established politician, the current senator, or a maverick, a MAGA, if you will, candidate, Attorney General Paxton. And that's going to be a debate. That's going to be a bitter primary between those two. I just hope that the Republicans are not so divided when they finish this primary that whoever goes into the general election is in a weak position. Now, the Republicans do have one big advantage, and that is that the polling data right now has a generic Republican beating a generic Democrat 48-43. So that's a good sign, at least for the moment. Now, those numbers may change. I think that the Republican advantage will grow once there is a candidate chosen or once there's a Democrat chosen, but we will see. But it's going to be very interesting between now, probably, and the primary. It's going to be very, very divisive. Just a quick note here on this day in history, a couple of great baseball Hall of Famers had a very special day. 1965, Willie Mays hit number 500. And in 1971, Frank Robinson, another Hall of Famer, hit number 500. I had the great honor of watching Frank Robinson play. Great player. I loved to watch him play. Willie Mays, I saw him play at the very end of his career. Never saw him play when he was younger. But people say he was the greatest player of all time. I wouldn't be surprised. And, he was definitely one of the greatest of all time. Willie Mays, who played most of his career all of his career with the Giants, and then at the very end, he was traded to the Mets, where he played one season or so with the Mets. But Willie Mays and Frank Robinson made history. Willie in 1965 and Frank in 1971. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas.